Money flows through our lives like a powerful river, sometimes guiding us, sometimes carrying us away. But have you ever wondered where that river is headed? Beyond the bills, the budgets, and the savings goals, there's a bigger story unfolding. This chapter asks a vital question. Where is it all going? The answer may change how you see not just your money, but your future. The flow of money in modern life. When we look at the role of money in our lives, it is easy to focus on the immediate: paychecks, bills, expenses, savings, and maybe an investment or two. But money does not just stop at our bank accounts, it is part of a much larger flow. Every dollar you spend, save, or invest continues its journey, shaping industries, communities, and even the direction of the economy itself. Think of money as energy in motion. It does not like to sit still. When you buy groceries, your money supports farmers, distributors, store employees, and countless others involved in getting food from the soil to your table. When you pay for rent or a mortgage, your money moves into the real estate sector, banks, or property owners who then decide how to use it further. Even when you think money is yours, it is really only passing through your hands before continuing on its path. This perspective raises an important question. Are we aware of the role our money plays in the bigger picture? For most people, the answer is no. We live in a system where money moves invisibly behind the scenes. A small purchase at a chain store may support a global corporation, while the same purchase at a local shop strengthens a neighborhood economy. Each decision sends ripples outward. Historically, money served as a tool of exchange, a simple way to trade goods and services. But in today's world, it has become far more complex. Globalization, financial markets, and digital transactions have created a system where money flows around the world in seconds, influencing lives far beyond the original point of exchange. A dollar spent in one country may end up funding production on the other side of the planet, or fueling speculation in international markets. This global flow of money has benefits. It allows businesses to grow, ideas to spread, and economies to expand beyond borders. But it also creates risks. Wealth often concentrates in fewer hands, while others struggle to meet basic needs. The flow of money has become uneven, like a river diverted into private channels, leaving dry beds where communities once thrived. On a personal level, this can make us feel powerless. You work hard, you pay your bills, but it seems as if the larger system is moving in directions you cannot control. Prices rise, jobs shift, and markets swing, yet your role in the system feels like a drop in the ocean. Still, it is worth remembering that the collective flow is built on millions of individual choices. Where you spend, what you save, how you invest. All of these decisions contribute to the bigger pattern. Consider the difference between money used to accumulate things and money used to cultivate value. When resources are directed toward endless consumption, new gadgets, clothes, or cars, they create a cycle of production and disposal. But when money is directed toward education, community, or sustainable practices, it generates long-term benefits that extend far beyond the initial transaction. The flow of money is not neutral. It reflects priorities, values, and visions of the future. This is why it is crucial to step back and ask, where is my money going once it leaves my hands? Am I supporting systems that align with my values, or am I unconsciously fueling patterns that conflict with them? Every dollar is like a vote in the economy, shaping what grows and what withers. Most of us do not think of our daily purchases as votes, but that is exactly what they are. At the same time, we must recognize that the flow of money is not entirely within personal control. There are structures, corporations, governments, banks, that direct money on a scale far larger than individual choices. Yet, change often begins from the ground up. Just as small streams feed into mighty rivers, countless small decisions can redirect the flow towards something more sustainable, equitable, and meaningful. To see money only as a private possession is to misunderstand its nature. It is always moving, always shaping, always influencing. The challenge, then, is not only to manage money wisely for ourselves, but also to remain aware of where it is going once it leaves us. The flow of money is the flow of power, and understanding that flow is the first step toward aligning it with the kind of future we want to create. The illusion of endless growth. Modern economies are built on a single, powerful idea: growth. We measure success by how much bigger the numbers get: gross domestic product, quarterly profits, stock market gains. From politicians to corporate leaders, growth is the goal that dominates nearly every conversation about money and progress. But have you ever wondered, can growth go on forever? At first glance, growth seems natural. A seed becomes a tree, a child becomes an adult, a business expands from a small shop to a bustling company. Growth feels like a sign of health, movement, and life. Yet in nature, nothing grows without limits. Trees stop reaching toward the sky, bodies reach maturity, even stars burn out. Growth without balance eventually collapses. Still, our financial systems insist on perpetual expansion. Companies must report higher earnings each quarter. Economies must increase output year after year. Investors expect constant returns. This creates a cycle of pressure on businesses, on workers, on consumers to keep producing and consuming more, regardless of whether it actually improves quality of life. This obsession with growth has consequences. Natural resources are stretched thin, waste piles up, and ecological systems strain under the weight of human demand. At the same time, people feel caught in a race with no finish line. We work longer, spend more, and chase after symbols of success, but rarely stop to ask whether the pursuit makes us any happier. The illusion of endless growth also shapes how money flows. Instead of circulating steadily through communities, wealth is often funneled toward expansion, building larger corporations, fueling speculation, and creating industries that depend on constant consumption. Consider the smartphone market. Every year, new models are released, not because last year's phones stopped working, but because growth requires new sales. Perfectly functional devices are discarded in the name of progress. For individuals, this means we are pulled into cycles of upgrade or fall behind. We are told that the next version, the bigger house, the newer car, is the path to success. And because the system rewards growth, we feel pressure to participate, even if it leaves us with more debt, more stress, and less satisfaction. But what if we stepped back and questioned the story? What if growth was not the only measure of success? Some communities, businesses, and even countries are beginning to explore alternative metrics: happiness, sustainability, balance. Instead of asking, "How much bigger can this get?" they ask, "How much better can life be?" This shift does not mean rejecting growth entirely. Growth can be positive when it reflects creativity, innovation, or human potential. But endless material growth, detached from human well-being, risks hollowing out the very life it claims to improve. An economy that demands more consumption, regardless of need, is like a body that never stops eating. It grows sick from excess. Understanding this illusion is key to answering our chapter's question: where is it all going? If the current system insists on infinite growth, it may eventually run into limits: environmental, social, or psychological. Already we see warning signs: rising inequality, climate change, burnout, and debt crises. These are signals that the flow of money, as it is currently directed, is unsustainable. Yet within this challenge lies an opportunity. If money is a tool and growth is not the only measure, then we have the power to redefine what progress means. Perhaps the true goal is not endless expansion, but balanced flourishing, where resources circulate in ways that support both people and the planet. In the end, the illusion of endless growth is not just an economic issue. It is a personal one. We too can fall into the trap of believing our worth depends on constant increase: more income, more possessions, more achievements. But like economies, our lives are healthiest when they balance growth with rest, expansion with reflection, ambition with enough. As we move deeper into this chapter, keep this question in mind. If growth cannot go on forever, then what comes after? Where is the flow of money and our lives headed once the limits are reached? The shifting landscape of work and wealth. To understand where money is going, we must also ask where work is going. For centuries, the flow of money has been tied closely to labor. You work, you earn, you spend. But in recent decades, this link has begun to change. Technology, automation, and global markets are reshaping the relationship between effort and income, raising questions about what work means and how wealth is distributed. Consider the role of machines. In earlier times, machines amplified human effort. They made farming, weaving, or building faster and more efficient. Workers remained at the center, and technology served as a tool. But today, machines, especially computers and artificial intelligence, are not just amplifying human labor, they are replacing it. Automated systems now write, design, analyze, and even drive. Entire industries are transforming, leaving many to wonder, if machines do the work, where does the money go? The answer often lies in ownership. When technology reduces the need for workers, the profits do not disappear. They shift upward toward those who own the machines, the patents, the platforms. This concentrates wealth in fewer hands, widening the gap between those who earn wages and those who earn returns on capital. In other words, the flow of money is increasingly favoring capital over labor. This shift is visible in many parts of modern life. Factories that once employed thousands now operate with a fraction of the workforce. Online platforms create billion-dollar valuations with only small teams because algorithms do the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, workers find themselves in a gig economy, piecing together income from short-term contracts, freelance projects, or delivery apps. Work becomes more flexible, but also more uncertain. For individuals, this new reality can feel unsettling. The traditional roadmap, study hard, get a steady job, retire with security, looks less reliable than before. Instead, people face careers marked by constant change, new skills, and fewer guarantees. The flow of money reflects this uncertainty. Some find new opportunities in emerging industries, while others are left behind in sectors that no longer thrive. At the same time, we are witnessing an increase in wealth generated by intangible assets, data, intellectual property, financial instruments. Unlike physical goods, these can scale infinitely at low cost, allowing enormous wealth to be created without equivalent increases in jobs or wages. The economy grows, but workers do not necessarily share in the benefits. This dynamic raises profound questions about fairness and sustainability. If the future of work offers fewer traditional jobs, how will people earn enough to live? Should societies explore new models, universal basic income, cooperative ownership, or wealth redistribution to ensure money continues to flow broadly rather than concentrating at the top? But the changing nature of work also opens new doors. Freed from repetitive labor, people could focus more on creativity, problem-solving, and care, roles that machines cannot easily replace. In this sense, the shift challenges us to rethink not just how money flows, but how we define meaningful contribution. Perhaps work in the future will be less about earning a paycheck and more about adding value to life and community in ways that cannot be automated. For now, however, the transition is uneven. Many still cling to old structures, hoping for stability in a world that grows less predictable. Others embrace flexibility, building careers from multiple streams of income, side projects, and lifelong learning. Both paths reflect attempts to adapt to a system in flux. Ultimately, the shifting landscape of work and wealth forces us to confront a deeper truth. Money is no longer simply tied to effort. It is tied to systems, ownership, and flows that extend far beyond individual control. And as those systems evolve, the question, where is it all going, becomes not just about money, but about the future of human purpose. Debt, desire, and the consumer machine. To see where money is going, we must also examine the engine that drives much of modern economic activity: consumer spending. For decades, growth has been fueled not just by what people earn, but by what they borrow. Debt has become woven into the fabric of everyday life. Credit cards, mortgages, student loans, car payments. For many, debt is no longer an occasional tool, but a permanent companion. Why has borrowing become so central? In part because the system demands constant consumption. Businesses rely on steady demand to keep profits rising, and governments rely on consumer spending to sustain economic growth. But wages have not always kept pace with the rising costs of living, education, and housing. The gap between what people earn and what they are encouraged to buy is often bridged by credit. The result is a culture where desire outpaces income. Advertising and social pressure magnify this effect, encouraging us to define success by what we own. New clothes, new gadgets, upgraded homes. The cycle repeats endlessly. Each purchase feels like a step forward, yet the accompanying debt can quietly pull us backward. Instead of money flowing freely, it becomes locked in a cycle of repayment, interest, and financial stress. This pattern is not accidental. The credit system is designed to profit from borrowing. Banks and lenders make money not only from loans themselves, but from the interest and fees that accumulate over time. In this sense, the flow of money does not simply move between consumers and producers. It often diverts toward financial institutions, concentrating wealth while leaving households burdened. For individuals, the consequences can be profound. Debt can shape choices about careers, relationships, and even personal dreams. A student loan may determine what job someone takes after graduation. A mortgage may keep a family tied to a place they no longer love. Credit card balances may prevent people from saving or investing. The future becomes constrained, not by a lack of opportunities, but by obligations already made. Yet debt also reveals something deeper: how we think about desire. The culture of consumerism thrives on the belief that happiness lies in acquisition, that the next purchase will finally bring satisfaction. But as soon as the thrill fades, the next desire arises. This keeps the machine running, but leaves many people chasing fulfillment that always feels just out of reach. If we step back, we can see the larger pattern. Money flows from households to corporations, from borrowers to lenders, from communities to global markets. What often returns is not security, but more pressure to consume. The cycle feeds itself, sustained by both human psychology and economic design. Breaking free from this cycle does not mean rejecting consumption altogether. We all need goods and services, and some purchases genuinely improve life. The challenge is distinguishing between needs and wants, between meaningful investments and empty indulgences. When spending aligns with values, supporting local businesses, investing in education, or choosing sustainable products, the flow of money strengthens rather than weakens our lives. At a societal level, rethinking debt and desire may be essential for long-term stability. An economy built on endless borrowing risks collapse when households can no longer sustain payments. Crises like the housing crash of 2008 show how fragile the system can be when too much depends on credit. The question is whether we can create models of growth that do not rely on pushing people deeper into debt. In the end, the story of debt and consumerism circles back to personal choice and awareness. Do we allow desire to be dictated by the consumer machine, or do we reclaim it, directing money in ways that serve our values and our future? Where money goes is never neutral. It always reflects what we seek, what we value, and what we are willing to trade for comfort or status. As we continue, we will see how these forces, debt, desire, and consumer culture, fit into an even bigger picture. The global challenges that demand not just individual awareness, but collective action. Global pressures and planetary limits. When we ask where money is going, we cannot ignore the most urgent stage upon which it now flows: the planet itself. For centuries, economies expanded as though the Earth's resources were infinite. Forests could be cut, oceans fished, air and water polluted, because there always seemed to be more. But in the 21st century, those limits are no longer theoretical. They are pressing against us every day. Climate change, biodiversity loss, soil depletion, and resource scarcity are not abstract warnings. They are economic realities. Crops fail when rainfall patterns shift. Supply chains falter when storms destroy ports and factories. Energy prices swing wildly as nations compete for limited resources. Money and ecology are no longer separate topics. They are interwoven, each shaping the fate of the other. Much of today's money still flows in ways that accelerate ecological strain. Subsidies support fossil fuels, advertising promotes disposable goods, and industries depend on extraction without renewal. In this system, short-term profits outweigh long-term costs. The result is a kind of financial blindness. Balance sheets show gains, while the real account, the health of the planet, shows growing debt. But alongside this destructive flow, another current is emerging. Increasingly, people, businesses, and governments are recognizing that money must move differently if we are to thrive in the future. Investments in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and circular economies are no longer fringe experiments. They are becoming mainstream. Where money flows, innovation follows, and entire industries begin to shift. Still, the transition is uneven. For every dollar invested in clean solutions, far more continues to fund extractive practices. Global markets often prioritize immediate returns over long-term resilience, and individuals caught in daily demands may feel their personal choices make little difference. Yet, it is precisely through countless small shifts, choosing sustainable products, supporting responsible businesses, advocating for systemic change, that the larger tide begins to turn. These planetary limits also challenge the myth of endless growth explored earlier. If resources are finite, then growth based on consumption must eventually collide with reality. This does not mean progress must stop. It means progress must be redefined. Instead of measuring success by how much we take, we may begin to measure it by how well we sustain. For individuals, this shift invites a rethinking of priorities. Perhaps true wealth lies not in accumulating more, but in ensuring that the essentials of life, clean air, fertile soil, fresh water, remain available for generations to come. Money that flows toward these ends creates a different kind of prosperity, one rooted in balance rather than excess. On a collective level, the choices are stark. Do we continue directing money towards systems that undermine the very ground we stand on? Or do we channel it towards solutions that secure a livable future? The path we choose will determine not only economic outcomes, but the conditions under which all life unfolds. This awareness transforms the question, where is it all going, into something larger than personal finance or even national economies. It becomes a question about civilization itself. Where are we directing the vast resources at our disposal? Toward short-term consumption or toward long-term survival? In the end, money is a tool, but the planet is the stage. Without a stable Earth, no wealth can endure. Recognizing planetary limits does not diminish our potential. It clarifies it. It shows us that the flow of money must serve life, not the other way around. As we move toward the final section of this chapter, we will explore how these global pressures converge with personal choices, shaping not only our financial futures, but our collective destiny. Choosing the direction of the flow. By now, it is clear that the flow of money is not random. It follows patterns shaped by culture, technology, institutions, and values. Yet within this vast system, we still hold power, perhaps more than we realize. Each choice we make directs money along a path. Multiply those choices by millions of people, and entire economies shift. The question is, do we direct the flow consciously, or do we let it sweep us along unconsciously? One way to think about this is through the image of a river. If left alone, a river follows its natural course, carving valleys and shaping landscapes. But humans can redirect rivers, building dams, digging canals, or restoring wetlands. In the same way, the flow of money can be steered. We can allow it to deepen inequalities, fuel endless consumption, and strain the planet. Or we can redirect it toward fairness, sustainability, and meaning. At the personal level, this means bringing awareness to everyday transactions. Where we shop, what we buy, where we bank, how we invest, each is a vote in the economy. Supporting local businesses keeps money circulating in communities. Choosing sustainable products signals demand for responsible practices. Aligning investments with ethical principles channels capital toward industries that build rather than destroy. These actions may feel small, but together they reshape the current. On a larger scale, institutions play a crucial role. Governments set policies that determine whether resources flow toward fossil fuels or clean energy, whether financial systems serve ordinary people or concentrate wealth at the top. Corporations decide whether to prioritize short-term profit or long-term responsibility. Civil society, movements, non-profits, communities, pushes for accountability, reminding us that money is not just an economic force, but a moral one. The future, then, depends not only on what we earn or spend, but on how we collectively choose to direct money's power. Will it remain a tool for endless accumulation, or can it become a means of creating balance, justice, and resilience? This is not a distant question. It is one we answer daily through our actions and our silence. Importantly, choosing the direction of the flow is not about perfection. No one can make every choice align perfectly with their values. The global economy is too vast, too interconnected, but awareness creates possibility. Each step, whether it is rethinking a purchase, saving with intention, or advocating for systemic change, sends ripples outward. Those ripples join others, and over time, the current begins to shift. This brings us back to the central question: where is it all going? The answer is not predetermined. It depends on us. The flow of money can lead to deeper debt, environmental collapse, and widening inequality, or it can be guided towards shared prosperity, ecological balance, and human well-being. The outcome is not written in stone. It is written in choices, habits, and priorities. Perhaps the most radical shift is to see money not as an end in itself, but as a tool of alignment. Instead of asking, "How much can I get?" we might ask, "What am I building with what I have?" When money serves life energy, time, health, relationships, creativity, it fulfills its real purpose. When it becomes detached from those things, it risks hollowing them out. In this way, the flow of money mirrors the flow of life. Both are always moving, always changing, always seeking direction. And just as we can drift passively through life or live intentionally, we can also let money flow unconsciously or guide it with vision. The challenge is to wake up to that responsibility and to act with clarity. As this chapter closes, remember, money is never idle. It always goes somewhere. The question is not simply, where is it all going, but where do you want it to go? The future of money, and perhaps the future of our world, depends on how we answer. That wraps up, where is it all going? We've seen how money flows through our choices, systems, and even the planet itself, and how those currents shape the world around us. The question now becomes personal. How much is enough? In the next chapter, The Quest for Happiness, we'll explore how to align money with meaning, discovering what it truly takes to live well.